So the battle of the sexes continues to rage on, and what better topic to unite the sexes in their equal hatred of something and each other than marriage? The institution of marriage, and what how men and women should handle this sort of decaying institution in its modern form. Um, there's a lot of debate about it. Talking about, hey, we need to do this. We need to get more men to marry women. Even if they're 30 years old and they've already been with 15 different guys and they have children by three different men. Whatever. That's kind of the direction that a lot of the more tradcon types like Matt Walsh want to go. The Daily Wire guys are like, yes, you should just marry. It doesn't matter if she's 35 and she has children by three different men, or whatever. You should still marry her and take responsibility for something. I don't know. They don't understand the like ramifications of sort of what they're prescribing for people and how it's going to be very destructive to a lot of young men. I want to sort of talk through personal experience, talk through some reasoning as to why that I feel that have the feelings the way that I feel about marriage in general, and just talk about there's a lot of considerations that I have personally, and the reason that I'm even invested in sort of this battle between the sexes. So let's just start off talking about my personal sort of experience, because I am married, and I can speak to this in some ways. And the sort of quintessential, everything will be perfect after you're married. You have a very, very low chance of that. That is a very, very specific type of relationship where the stars aligned and you literally found the exact person who would never annoy you or never offend you in any way. And personally, I found that while I love my wife and I would do anything for her, I mean, I'm the type I would take a bullet for her, but it's not necessarily. There's a lot of issues. Like it's not perfect. It's not there's not just this smooth lifestyle that we have. There's a lot of conflicts, a lot of frustrations, a lot of issues that go on within a real marriage, and that's the frustrating part of the way that Matt Walsh and these types seem to do it. And maybe they do have a good marriage, but that's also, that could be a class thing. There's a lot of people don't think about it, but if my wife and I were had 10 12 times the amount of money that I've currently have, then maybe we wouldn't have any of the struggles or frustrations that we have with a lot of the stuff. Like for instance, we're thinking about possibly moving at some point, and then that would be a big ordeal. These are kind of things that when you look at it and you think about it, it's very difficult to navigate these kind of things with someone and being on the same page and following, lining up with their expectations, and that's a lot of what the sort of trad cons don't consider, is that this is a two-party relationship, and one party is really getting raked over the coals no matter what they do, even if they do the right thing a lot of times, because yes, I could say I can accept my faults, right? I'm a flawed human being. Let me just put that out there. I'm a flawed human being. I'm sure that I do things to upset my wife, sometimes intentionally, just to I typically intend it more as a joke, but sometimes it's not taken that way. Any man with a wife will know that. Sometimes I like to think that I'm funny when it's really not, but I can acknowledge my mistakes. But there's also this sort of component of our society that if my wife would make a mistake, that they're willing to basically validate her mistakes and tell me that it's my fault. And that's the frustrating part about today's society, is that there is no there's no accountability for any woman. Like if as soon as a woman makes a mistake, it's always the man didn't do enough, and that's that's sort of been the line from a lot of these, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, blah blah blah, Ben Shapiro. Well, maybe if this man got divorced, maybe he should have done more for his wife. He should have been a better servant leader. Blah blah blah. Like, well, let me tell you about the sleepy mattress, blah blah blah, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what ad reads they're doing lately at the Daily Wire. I was just trying to come up with something. But there is infinite number of institution placements, like there all kinds of places, things that people that will validate their mistakes, especially other women who are making mistakes. And I know one such relationship that one of someone that I know, somehow I really don't want to just like trash on people, but just there's a personal story about a woman who has made mistakes. She got divorced because she just didn't like the guy anymore. She didn't make her happy enough, and so that she decided that she wanted to move on. And okay, so be it. The state allows that now. Like that's it's something it's permitted, it's permissible, everybody can do it. Thankfully they didn't have any children involved. That would have been really awkward. But so they just split kind of evenly, and everything seemed fine. But she wasn't necessarily faithful. She wasn't necessarily a good person, and not someone that I would ever want my daughter to model themselves after, or to even have any influence from. I would not want, if I had a daughter, I would tell them to stay away from these kind of people, because they're very destructive, and they only want people to be utterly destroyed and ruined, because they chose poorly as well. And that's fundamentally what a lot of the women's issues are in modern day, is that there are women who have made mistakes, or they've they want to make bad choices because they believe that society is allowing them to, and telling them that it's okay for them to do so, that it's the man's fault if he didn't step up, and if he didn't do everything just right, if he didn't kiss your butt enough, then he wasn't doing right. So therefore you can do whatever you want. Yes, Queen Slay. Yes, Queen Slay. Whatever. That's the kind of stupid stuff that they keep on telling to these young women. And I think that before any of this changes, I know people talk about Pearl, whatever. She's probably the worst example to actually fix any of these problems. But there's going to have to be some female influence. I mean, if Taylor Swift, let's just say, hypothetically, if Taylor Swift were to come out and to say, yes, you should be a good wife to your husband. I'm getting married. I did this, blah blah. Be a good wife to your husband. Do this, do that, and basically giving the play by play, the rule book for women. And then all the Swiftie girls decide that they're going to go get married, and they're going to do the right thing instead of being single, childless at 30, dancing in the parking lot at her concerts or whatever. Which I think, maybe that would be a negative for Taylor Swift, I guess. But I mean, still, it would be the right thing to do. But until something like that happens, you're not really going to see that much movement on the woman's side. There's plenty of guys working on these kind of things. For all the ragging about the red pill, manosphere, blah blah blah, they're doing way more to refine this sort of formula. I mean, even if it's not exactly how I would believe, I don't agree with a lot of the just like never get married, this kind of stuff. I don't necessarily believe that. That's why it's so hard to argue with these people and discuss this kind of stuff, because I don't fundamentally hate marriage. I do like being married. It does have its perks, but there's a lot of decay and just cultural rot and decay that's flooded into the institution of marriage, and just uh, everything surrounding the sexes, and that's why people are so hung up and uptight about all this. Is especially women who hear this kind of stuff of like, hey, maybe women should be literally doing things to help their man. Maybe they should cook at night for their husband, or whatever. That irks them on such a level, because they feel like that they've finally got to the point where now I'm entitled to all this kind of stuff, and I don't have to work for it. My husband should buy me flowers every so often. My husband should buy me chocolate at every Valentine's Day. I mean, this is why whenever you see these kind of like Valentine's Day, would always be when I was working in restaurants, particularly like when I worked at Cracker Barrel. I mean, there's a lot of couples. I mean, whether it be old couples, young couples, like particularly, even the young couples now, like they if there's they're told like the guy has to take them out somewhere, to do something, buy them something expensive. They bought them a nice big $300 ring or whatever. Those kind of expectations are being placed on a lot of young men, and it's just not something that isn't readily achievable or reasonable in any sense of any capacity. You're putting unreasonable expectations on these young men, and they're destined to fail. I mean, whether it be through the education system, through these institutions of relationships between men and women, you're setting them up for failure, and then you're complaining that they failed. Oh man, the marriage decline. Oh, there's no more men getting married. The birth rates, they're not having children. Golly gee, why? I wonder why. What have we done? Well, wait. It's not what we've done. It's what you've done. You men, you're the problem. Look, you've got to go wife up some 30-year-old used woman who's been with 15 different guys and has 3 kids by 3 different men. That's your job now. Like you have to manage this. It's your fault. We need you. We need you, men, to do the thing that do both men and women's jobs. Take care of the house, and this is why, and I guess this is more of the culmination of the issue that I'm seeing, and this is what I, if you haven't listened to anything else, please listen to this portion of this discussion. And it goes back to a Substack article that I wrote a while back. Is basically that men are in a crisis of responsibility without any authority, and this is fundamentally why I take such umbrage with all of the teachings and all of the societal programming for the way that women's behavior is in regards to marriage and in regards to relationships between men and women, is because the men are completely piling on more and more responsibility. You're supposed to work. You're supposed to, take care of the kids. You're supposed to also take out the trash. You're supposed to clean, mop the floor. You're supposed to do the dishes. You're supposed to do the laundry. You're supposed to do all this or do it 50-50, like at least 50-50. But then what happens when 50-50 becomes 75-25? What happens when 50-50 becomes 80-20? What happens when it becomes 90-10? And then so on. And then he's just doing everything and she does nothing. And I mean, that's not what's happened in my personal relationship. My wife has pulled the 50-50 card on me, which I don't mind helping with things. And that's where men get trapped, is because I don't mind helping with things, and yes, should I help where I can? Yes, I should. But to expect that everything is always going to be done half and half is an unreasonable expectation by anybody. I mean, but and also there's some things that some people are better at than others, and for women it just tends to be um, that they're better caretakers. They're better at managing this sort of household, cleaning up things, managing all of this and getting everything organized and sorting everything. That women are very good at that kind of stuff, like getting everything nice and tidy and being very putting the pictures where they should go. I mean, if I was to hang up the portraits and stuff of our family, I would just have them. I'll just be like, well, looks good there. Just slap it on there. I mean, that's kind of what I've done in my room in here. Just like, oh, well, I think it'll look all right there. Slap and put it on there. But they have their talents. They have their capabilities. That they're things that they're better at and better suited to in a lot of ways. I can cook a mean burger. I can cook anything. I've learned how to cook on my own. But is it nice whenever she cooks something for me? Yes, it is. And it's just become such a destructive thing to say. Well, you shouldn't expect her to do all the cooking, and cleaning, or you shouldn't expect her to do this or do that. And it's not even that I expect her to. That's the funny part. Is like I don't know how to articulate it enough to these people that I don't expect everything. I don't expect her to clean all of the house all of the time. I don't expect her to do all this kind of stuff all the time. I don't mind taking out the trash every once in a while, or regularly even. I don't mind doing things to help. Right. The point being that the way that the institution works now is that there's a lot of programming and embedded into our society that tells women that if their husband isn't basically kissing your butt and doing breaking his back every single day to do both his job and everything else around your home and everywhere with your oh, he needs to be helping with the kids. Oh, that like he's not babysitting. He's that's part of his duties. And it's like, well, yeah, you can still call it like that he's kind of watching the kids or whatever in place of you, instead of just dismissing it completely and saying like, yes, it is a dad's job to help with the kids. I help give them a bath at night and do all these kind of things, and I don't mind helping and I don't mind doing things. It's just when it becomes such a thing where all of society thinks that you men should be doing this, you should be doing all this, more, and then women, what do women need to be doing? Hey, society, what do women need to be doing? Oh, nothing. They can sit on their butt all day and do nothing. Not saying that my wife does that. I'm just saying what society tells women. Society is telling women that they don't have to do anything, and my wife does stuff. And this is why I don't want anything to be here as to be a slight against my wife. We have our relationship and we work through our things in private, and I don't want to like bring that out on the open here and hash that out. That's not the point of this video. The point being is that society is going through and telling her all these kind of things, and then sometimes that does create conflict. Now it doesn't break up. It hasn't broken up our marriage. It hasn't done anything to destroy our marriage. It's just a point of friction, right? And that's the frustrating part about this, is that it's creating a point of friction to where men don't want to participate in this, and they check out of a lot of this kind of stuff because it's so difficult. Because when you're fighting against this kind of stuff and you're trying to fight against all this societal programming, and not necessarily like trying to make her do anything, but when you're trying to say, hey, maybe I don't maybe I don't want to do something. Maybe I want to have a break today. And well, I get a break. I never get a break. This kind of stuff. These are kind of like minimal arguments that just micro arguments that happen. Like, when a guy says something, it's immediately met with, well, women have it worse, and that's the fundamental problem with a lot of these sort of arguments of trying to push marriage onto people. And I know this is really long winded. I really want to go into this thoroughly though, and really make sure that people understand why I'm coming from, where I'm coming from. And I don't want you to. I know probably nobody will watch this anyway, but it's a long video. But the idea is that like men and women do need each other. There should be marriage, but as a man with two sons and seeing how it is currently for me, much less how it's going to be for them, do I just tell my son, yes, run into the fire, son, hopefully you won't get burned? Like, no, that's completely irresponsible. So obviously what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to sit him down and explain a lot of things and say, hey, if it's just not going to work, don't opt into a system if you aren't for sure, if you aren't for sure that this person is going to do right by you, do not opt into the system. I would rather you not get married at all and live your life and do the best that you can than to get married to someone and have them just completely destroy your life. And that can be said men and women too. But in general, it's becoming more of a problem for men because of the kind of aforementioned things that I'm talking about. Is that women are told that they're never wrong, that there's nothing, that they walk on water. They are literally Jesus reincarnate as it were. That's literally what society is telling all these women. And even in the most conservative churches or whatever, they're I literally had to hear I've literally had to hear sermons as recently as this past Sunday, whatever, about, oh yeah, men, we need to step up and we need to do our best, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we need to do more, we blah, blah. It's like, I'm trying as hard as I can, dude. I don't know about y'all. I put everything on the line. If I'm out here, I'm laying it on the line, okay? I'm putting all of my effort onto the floor as much as I can, as best I can. Is it always going to be great? Is it always going to be a win? No, but I'm trying very, very hard to do the right things. I'm trying so very hard to do the right things. But that's why I don't want my sons to see this and be like, oh yeah, mommy and daddy, y'all are married, y'all are pretty happy, everything is good, and then just go get married to someone and them be the worst person under the sun, but just because like a switch flips, they get married and all of a sudden she doesn't like the shirt that he wore that day, and well, he didn't buy me a $500 wedding ring, so the wedding's off or whatever, and he just spent $500 on a ring or something. I don't know, like just something crazy. There's just so much that can go wrong. And to say that, just continue to push it and say, hey, and not educate these young men in like, hey, if you're going to do it, make sure that you're sure that you're sure. And I mean that's part of what they do is they say, oh, make sure you pick the right one, but they don't go through, okay, hey, find the right values, make sure that these are particular topics that that's sort of what the red pill in some ways does, is like if a woman talks about politics, that's probably an instant no. Like that's that's one of those things, is like if a woman's talking about politics, it's probably, you should probably run, like you should go away. Like if a woman wants to discuss the geopolitical conflict, excuse me, the geopolitical conflict in sub-Saharan Africa. Like, I mean, I don't think that that's probably conducive to you being happy, unless somehow y'all are both interested in the geopolitical conflict in sub-Saharan Africa. I don't know. That could be a thing. But I say all that to say this: just like people should take more care when discussing this topic, just because they are, and that's the reason that so many men are so upset by it. Is that as soon as you encounter this in your daily life, as soon as you encounter in the real world an example of something so asinine as a woman not liking a man not being quote unquote nice enough to her every single day, because and it's not that he did anything wrong, but he wasn't nice enough to her, and then divorcing him. As soon as you encounter a situation like that, it's going to make you rethink. I hope, or hopefully, just this video reaches you, and maybe that's a signifier for you. But I am going to try to teach my sons, hey, find someone who is compatible, and go through things that they should expect to find compatible, not just not just religion, although that is something that I personally believe you should be trying to focus on also. But there's also other factors. There's types of interests. There's a lot of different things that and you don't necessarily even have to have the same interests. Like, a lot of people want to do that kind of thing of like, I want to have someone who I can do this with, but there's a really small chance that happens, and there's also there's a lot of problems that would even come with that. But it's managing expectations for these young men, and especially me having sons, to manage those expectations and try to help grow them to understand, hey, you want to have someone that you can be happy with, and you want someone that you can be preferably effortlessly happy with, and that's really the key to finding like a really good compatible person. But even so, there's a lot of stuff that my wife and I aren't necessarily seeing eye to eye on, but because we love each other, we can see past a lot of that, and that's where you can make some headway in a lot of this. And that I don't want men to despair. I don't want anyone to find that it's just a lost cause. Marriage is not necessarily a lost cause. There's a lot of good, useful things that you can do to try to mitigate your risk when it comes to getting married. But and obviously finding the right person is a huge part of that. But yeah, it's just an unfortunate topic, because I hate that of what it's become, because it used to be such a sacred institution of marriage, and making sure that families would be intact, and that they would try to do the right thing by each other and by their kids. And it's just kind of warped into something that it's not. And hopefully this encourages you to actually get married. I don't want people to not getting married just because I say that it may not be the easiest time. That I say that you will have hard times, that you will struggle, you will deal with hardship, but you shouldn't despair. You should be able to persevere, and not just persevere, struggle through pain, but you should be able to find a way, find solutions to things that are going to cause you heartache. So that's been my piece on this marriage thing. I don't want people to think that A, that I'm ragging on my wife, B, that I don't know why I shouldn't have to qualify this, that if I'm talking about a topic and I'm complaining about something, that if I'm complaining about the relationship between men and women, that I automatically just hate my wife, and then I'm evil to her or whatever. I don't want that to be what's basically out there in the ether. But that's where we are today. I do, I want everybody to grow, love, and to be happy, especially in marriage. So that's all I have for this. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully you got something out of it. And let me know your thoughts about this. Hopefully you actually watch this all the way to the end if you had, if you did click on it. But please let me know your thoughts down below. I would love to hear about everybody else's experiences and the, you know, both the struggles and the lows and the highs of being married in the modern day. So that being said, this is Trey from Trey's Think Tank, signing out.